Hello everybody, it is Monday afternoon. It is 4:30 in California, so it's time for Q&A with Coach Rebecca. So I am a high performance coach and I specialize in helping young athletes age 8 to 18 unlock maximum performance and maximum enjoyment. I do this a couple of different ways, one of which is one-on-one sessions. So I meet with kids from all over the world over Skype or FaceTime and help them talk through mental blocks or anything that's basically preventing them from being the very best version of themselves. Now, I also include kids who are doing really phenomenally well and just want to get a mental edge over the competition. The other way that I do this work is through my online mental toughness training community called the Perform Happy Community. And this is if you're interested in kind of do-it-yourself mental toughness training, or if you're a parent who just wants to give your kids some extra tools, check it out at performhappy.com. So we're going to pick up where we left off last week. We got a question right at the end that I wasn't totally able to answer. So I'm going to jump in and ask that. And basically our theme today is dealing with bummers. Mostly, it'll be kind of toward parents and how to help your athlete. And also if you are an athlete, it's how to get through those tricky situations, like where your coach is being a bummer or things are not going your way or you're disappointed. My goal is to give you some idea of how to kind of like pick yourself back up and get back to work, even if things that are not within your control are not the way you want them. So the question that we left off with last week is, what advice do you have for athletes that have coaches that move up with them each level? So I'm guessing this is a gymnast, and it is them who have made the athlete lose their confidence. So last week we were talking about confidence, and if you want to check out all my tips for the top 5 ways that you can build confidence, check that out. But so I wanted to give 2 different answers here. One answer for the athletes and one answer for the coaches, or for the parents, excuse me. So athletes, the first thing I always recommend is, if you don't like something about somebody else, be the change you want to see. That's like Gandhi. Gandhi says, be the change you want to see in the world. So if you are not happy with the way that your coach is treating you, the first place to look is, what can I do to be the person that I want my coach to be? So if my coach is sarcastic and my coach rolls their eyes and my coach has, snarky things to say, then I make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm not rolling my eyes, that I'm showing up and being helpful, that I'm doing everything that I wish was being done around me, because that type of behavior really encourages other people to be the same. And I actually remember a girl who was really struggling with a coach who was being very sarcastic and just didn't have a whole lot of positive feedback ever. And I was in the gym one day watching the interaction, and I was like, gosh, it's got to be so hard to have this coach that is always so negative to you. And then when I watched, I noticed that these little things she would do, she'd cross her arms, or she'd little things like that, where she didn't say anything. She thought she was being respectful, but she'd do these things that would kind of like push back against him. And so the two of them were having this little he would be rude, and then she would think she wasn't being rude. She would think that she was being sweet, but she'd do these little things. So my challenge to her was, why don't you go a whole week and just smile and be grateful? You guys know I talk a lot about being grateful for the people who drive you nuts, because it builds character, but it also helps you to see things in a different way. That if you can show up and go, okay, I'm grateful for my coach because this, and this, then at least it fills your heart up a little bit, whether or not it changes the coach. So athletes, be the change you want to be, the change you want to see in your coach. Give them no reason to be angry. You show up and be sweet as pie, and then you can at least know that you've done everything you can. And then if they're going to be in a bad mood and not a nice person, you can honestly go, it's not about me. That's their stuff. I'm showing up. I'm being sweet. I'm working hard. I'm being respectful. I'm letting it go when this guy's being a jerk or this lady's not being nice. Then you can truly, honestly let go and go, okay, I've done all I can, so I'm just going to focus on me. And then that's the next thing, is focus on what you can control. That was a big part of last Monday's talk, was figure out what you can control, which is essentially attitude, effort, behavior. That's pretty much it. And what you can't control, you let go of. So you can't control the coach, you can't control your parents, you can't control your teammates. So you show up with a smile, you work hard, you get to feel like you've done a good job, which builds self-esteem, builds confidence, And the rest of it, it's just good practice for having a terrible boss or a nasty roommate. We're all going to grow up and have people in our lives that are less than ideal, but you'll have this edge if at 8 years old, you can learn how to be okay around people who are not the nicest. Don't take it personally. I kind of mentioned that. Fill your heart elsewhere. So I talk about filling up your heart. Like your heart is your gas tank. And if your heart is on empty, you're not going to be able to push through fear. You're not going to be able to do that extra rep. You're not going to be able to be kind. You're not going to be able to lift that mat. If you are so depleted by your coach's negativity, by your own negativity, by feeling like you failed over and over, there's nothing you can do to really let the ultimate athlete in you emerge. You are not going to be a champion when you're depleted. It's just not the way it goes. You got to have your heart in the game. So this is something I do a whole training on in my Perform Happy community under overcoming fear, because in order to push through fear, you must figure out how to get your heart totally in the game, which means you're feeling happy, you're connected to why you do what you do. What's it, is it worth dealing with this difficult person often in order to be able to fly, to be able to feel accomplished, to have the rush of a new skill? Is it worth it? If so, then okay, you go, all right, I'm willing to deal with this person because I want to fly, because I want to improve my skills. I want to get that skill. And if you can get it kind of turned around to where your heart is leading the show, and like, you know what, bud, it's cool. You could be in a bad mood. I am going to do my thing, and I'm so excited about it. So that there's a lot of things you can do to build your, to get your heart in the game. But one of them I actually did with a girl who was working with one of these coaches, one of these nasty coaches. And you coaches out there, I promise I don't mean to give you all such a bad time all the time. I was a coach, but I was working with a girl who had a really basically borderline verbally abusive coach, which I know in the gymnastics world there's a lot of talk of really inappropriate coaching and stuff like that, and it just absolutely breaks my heart. But so what we figured out with her was, if he's not going to fill your heart, he's not going to compliment you, he's not going to make you feel good, he's not going to build your confidence. That is not his role. But she trusted him. She's like, this guy's going to make me a really good gymnast. He can help me with my technique better than anybody, but he's not going to make me feel good about myself. So the fact that I said, okay, so you either can switch gyms or you can accept it. And she's like, I'm not switching gyms. This is my coach. This is what we're going to do. And again, not like I'm like, everybody switch gyms. But I want to make sure that people have their choices. So she's like, I'm staying here. What do I do? And I said, okay, well, if he's not filling up your heart, what does? And what we figured out was that although he was like, oh, you're awful. Oh, you're never going to make it. The little kids in the gym would look up to her and go, oh my gosh, she's amazing. She is so good. We love her. We want to give her hugs. We want to be next to her. We want to watch what she's doing. Even on her worst day, these little kids were like, wow, you're such an inspiration. So instead of her looking up to her coach, she looked down to who looked up to her. And she decided, I'm going to show up as the team captain. I'm going to smile when I'm here. I'm going to be the one that the girls lean on when they're getting yelled at by this guy, because I'm not being affected by it. And I'm going to make an example of, you show up, you work hard, and you can do whatever you want. So she was able to completely turn it around in just a shift of perspective. So that's definitely a way that you can rebuild confidence. And remembering, actually, I'm pretty amazing if I look at it from anybody's perspective but this one person. So it's important to remember to keep it in perspective. Okay, parents, here's my suggestion for you guys. Talk it out. If you know that your kid is kind of getting beat down by a coach, talk it out. Let them know that you're not gonna judge them for whatever's going wrong. Even if they're maybe causing the problem or creating some drama, you just have an open heart and go, hey, let's talk about this. Ask them some open-ended questions what do you think? What do you think he's thinking about this? And how can we figure out how to handle this in the future? And it's really just this curious spirit. That's how I always encourage parents to talk to athletes, is with curiosity rather than this is how you need to deal with it and this is how it should be. Asking questions like, I wonder why he would make a choice like that. Let's try to find some clues. Let's try to have some compassion. What might be going on in his world that would make that seem like the thing to do? Just kind of talking it out, curious, no judgment, not outraged, but just let's get to the bottom of this. This is interesting. And then, if there's no sense to be made, you just can encourage them to be kind, to do the best they can to show up as the person that they want to be. There's also, when you get into total crisis mode where the kid is just like melting down or freaking out, there's like a pretty good system that I've actually come up with based on panic attacks, but it's really just for anxiety and for upset. And when the kid is in tears, it all kind of goes together. So if you guys want that, I'll put a link when this is over, but you can go my website, completeperformancecoaching.com/crisis, and download. I have a whole printout on how to deal with a crisis. It's all the questions to ask and kind of the theory behind how you approach best somebody who's really feeling like they're in crisis. So that's completeperformancecoaching.com/crisis. You can download that for free. So now I'm gonna move on to it, like the next segment. Similar question, but not quite the same. Our daughter is a gymnast. I would say our biggest problem is how to encourage her when she's so down on herself, how to help her change her mindset so she can progress, how to better deal with bad days and improve her skills. I would describe her as a perfectionist. So the second that they said perfectionist, I was like, I know how to handle this, because many high-level young athletes are perfectionists, and no matter if it was the best performance you've had, you're gonna go back and be like, oh, that one thing could have been better. Or like, oh, I messed up here. Even if you had like such a good day, you're gonna find the flaws. And that can really beat down your self-esteem and your confidence, even though you might have had a lot of really great reasons to walk away feeling good. So the first thing I recommend is to reflect objectively and often. So when I say reflect, I think like get out a journal, or a log or something where you actually you answer 3 questions. Number 1, what went well? And this is the first question to ask, what went well? Because even after the very worst performance, you're going to find something that you did well. Even if it's like, I ate the right breakfast and I didn't feel nauseous. Woo, win. And then, so you come up with 3 things that went well. Then you ask yourself, what could have gone better? Or you can say what didn't go so well, depending on the level of perfectionism. Sometimes it's good to just say what could have gone better. And then you only get to do 3 things. You can't write 100 things out. You just write 3, okay? And then the final question is, what did you learn? So that typically you'll look at your list of things that went well and you'll be like, oh, I learned that this goes well. Or most commonly, you'll look at your list of things that didn't go well and go, well, I learned that caused this, so don't do that next time. Oh, I learned this. That didn't go well section is the biggest source of knowledge about yourself as a competitor. So if you can just break it down, take the judgment out of it and just go, all right, this is what happened, what went well, what didn't go well, what did I learn? Awesome, move along. Then every single failure is valuable. Every single success is valuable, and it all just is part of the deal of improving as an athlete. So I love to have that, if your kid's open to it on the way home from a competition, have them kind of go through those 3 questions with you, or they can do it in their own journal. But that can start to put things in perspective. So it's not just like, I did awful, or this was so bad. You always have some points in the good column, no matter what. And if anybody has any other questions, you guys can go ahead and type them in there. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of wrap up here. And the other thing, just thinking back to filling up the heart, filling up the tank, try to figure out, what is it that gets your heart beating? What is the image or the thought or you can even think back to a time when you were doing really well with your sport. What was making it work? That's one of the key ingredients. What makes you happy? What do you love? And do you have enough of that in your life? And this might be outside of your sport. I had a little girl who, bless her, she gave me the best idea. We got off the phone. I did a consultation with her and her mom about her fear. And I said, what fills your heart? And she got off the phone. She drew a heart and she filled it up with, she wrote, gymnastics, my cat, my family. She wrote all the things in it that fill her heart, and she hung it on her wall. And whenever she feels bummed out, she refers to it. So anybody who feels inspired by that, big up to my little friend who came up with that idea. I love it. I'm a collage kind of girl. But do what fills your heart. Don't dwell on the things that are bringing you down. And your 2 choices in a bad situation are change it or accept it. So pick one and go with it. And you guys, I will be back next week. Let me know if you have any questions in the meantime. And you can reach me at Rebecca@performhappy.com.